So, um, imagine for a second that you just spent, I don't know, hundreds of dollars on this custom orthopedic memory foam luxury bed for your pet.
Oh, yeah. We've all been there.
Right. You bring it home, you place it perfectly in the afternoon sunbeam in the living room, and you turn around
Let
and,
me guess. They're sleeping in the cardboard box it came in.
worse, you find them wedged underneath a noisy refrigerator.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that is definitely worse.
It's a total betrayal. But today, you are joining us for a deep dive where we're looking at an aquarist named Aang who experienced this exact betrayal, just, underwater.
It really is the ultimate reality check for anyone who tries to engineer nature. I mean, you construct a space with these very specific intentions, right?
Right.
Assuming utility and logic will prevail, only to watch biology just completely ignore your blueprints.
Yeah, exactly. And we are pulling our insights today from an August 3, 2026 log entry. It's titled Notes on Fishkeeping, Part 306.
And it is such a fascinating read.
It really is. Because what starts as just this simple observation of a fish tank, it quickly turns into this, masterclass on the scientific method.
Yeah, and the hidden mechanics of animal instinct, too.
Oh, totally.
Right.
And really the danger of our own human assumptions. So our main characters for today's deep dive are a species called the Kribensis Cichlid.
Scientifically known as pelvicachromis-pulcher.
I'm glad you pronounced it and not me.
Well, I try, but they are a really fascinating freshwater fish. They're known for being bottom-dwelling and highly territorial.
Which is super important for this log.
Exactly. Because the context here is crucial. These cichlids have recently been grouped into new pairs within the tank.
Which, changes everything about the tank's social dynamics. When you introduce new pairings like that, the stakes for territory and safety suddenly skyrocket.
Oh, absolutely. They aren't just swimming around aimlessly anymore.
Right. They're looking to claim a home base. And Aang, being this very meticulous aquarist, has anticipated this need. Aang built them what should be an absolute fortress.
Yeah, the log details this artificial cave placed in the tank. It's constructed from a terracotta pot and surrounded by this really fine sand.
Sounds nice, honestly.
Right. In theory, this mimics a highly defensible natural structure. I mean, the hard terracotta provides an impenetrable roof and walls.
And the fine sand allows the fear to, customize the floor and the entrance.
Exactly.
It's basically the aquatic equivalent of a luxury suite.
A very secure luxury suite.
But, so upon close inspection of the tank, Aang notes that this custom-made terracotta cave is just a ghost town. Nobody is home.
Not a single fish.
Instead, a few of the Kribensis Cichlids have decided to take up residence in arguably the most chaotic spot available in the entire tank.
Yeah, they're hiding beneath the tank's sponge filter.
Which, okay, for those who aren't familiar with aquarium mechanics, a sponge filter is basically a piece of utility equipment.
Right. It's essentially a cylinder of porous foam. It's usually powered by an air pump that constantly draws water and debris right through it.
So it's vibrating, it's creating continuous suction.
Yeah, it is literally the central collection point for physical waste in the tank.
It's so gross. It's the equivalent of choosing to sleep huddled next to an active vacuum cleaner in a utility closet, completely ignoring the quiet, custom-built bedroom just down the hall.
It really is. And this rejection of the ideal habitat in favor of industrial equipment, it forces a massive perspective shift.
How so?
Well, the aquarist is looking at this terracotta pot surrounded by soft sand, right? And they're projecting human values onto it.
Oh, like comfort, quiet, security.
Exactly. But the fish clearly have a totally different set of architectural priorities.
Right. They do not care about the luxury suite. So
Yeah.
to figure out why they are hiding under the equivalent of a vacuum cleaner, Aang notes that we have to look at what they aren't doing.
Yes. The missing behavior.
Because there was a very specific instinctual behavior expected here. These cichlids are naturally predisposed to dig.
They love to dig.
Yeah, they're supposed to excavate the fine sand around the terracotta pot to carve out their own entrance to the shelter.
Right, and that act of digging is central to how a pelvicachromis-pulcher establishes dominance and security.
It's not just like finding an empty hole and swimming inside, right?
No, not at all. The active modification of the environment, moving the sand grain by grain, that's a huge part of how they claim ownership of the space.
Okay, let's unpack this a bit, because this makes me question the underlying mechanics of how these animals even perceive their environment.
Okay, where are you going with this?
Well, if they are naturally meant to dig through the fine sand to open the cave, is it possible the terracotta cave just doesn't register as a cave to them until the entrance is clear?
Oh, that's an interesting thought.
Right. Are we expecting them to do too much work? Think of it like a piece of computer software.
Okay, a software analogy.
Yeah. If the cichlid's brain is running a simple if-then script like, if I see a dark crevice in the sand, then I will dig to make it a cave. But the sand is currently piled up so high that there is no dark crevice visible, well, that if condition is never met.
To code just never executes. That analogy actually perfectly captures the concept of environmental triggers in ethology.
Ethology, which is the study of animal behavior, right?
Yes, exactly. Animals do not possess a holistic, human-like understanding of their surroundings. They operate on very specific sensory inputs.
They aren't looking at the big picture.
No, their nervous systems are primed to react to distinct visual, chemical, or tactile cues.
So without that specific visual cue, like a shadow, a dip in the sand, a hint of an opening, the terracotta pot isn't a buried house to them.
Right, to them it's just a wall.
It's just part of the topography of the tank floor.
Precisely. We see a buried pot, and we intellectually understand it's hollow inside. But the cichlid just sees a solid surface.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, if the visual trigger to initiate the digging behavior is absent, the instinct remains dormant.
So they're just left feeling exposed in this brand new group dynamic.
Exactly. They are frantically seeking cover and settling for the physical overhang of the sponge filter because it provides immediate, ready-made shelter.
Regardless of the noise or vibration, they just want a roof.
Exactly.
Which means Aang isn't just dealing with stubborn fish. Aang is dealing with a broken behavioral loop.
Yeah, and this is where the log shifts from passive observation into active troubleshooting.
Right. Aang starts brainstorming the potential variables causing this avoidance. And the deduction process here is fascinating because it totally avoids jumping to easy conclusions.
It really does. The first possibility Aang entertains is perhaps the most humbling.
Which is?
That the underlying reason is completely beyond current human understanding.
Ah, right. The mysteries of fish psychology.
Exactly. It is an acknowledgement that fish psychology, which has been shaped by millions of years of evolution in environments we can barely even replicate, might simply involve preferences we cannot measure.
I mean, maybe the magnetic field of the sponge filter is somehow soothing to them.
Or maybe the specific texture of the terracotta pot feels wrong to their lateral line sensors. We just don't know what we don't know.
But stopping at, well, it's a mystery, doesn't solve the problem of the exposed fish.
No, it doesn't. So Aang moves to a highly practical mechanical barrier.
The sand itself.
Returning to your software analogy, this is the theory that the visual trigger is literally buried.
Right. The fine sand, which was intended to be this fun, customizable floor, has instead created an obscurement.
The entrance is just too difficult to discover. It requires human intervention to reveal the IF condition so the fish's behavioral code can actually run.
That makes total physical sense. But then Aang's log introduces a third possibility that takes a much darker turn.
The pathological variable.
Yeah. Aang considers that this avoidance behavior might be the result of an uncovered health issue affecting these specific cichlids, which is fundamentally altering their normal instincts.
It is a grim thought, but an absolutely necessary one in animal husbandry.
See, I struggle with this one, honestly.
Really? Why?
Well, jumping to health issues just because they prefer the sponge filter over the terracotta pot feels incredibly alarmist to me.
I can see how it might look that way.
Right, like if you move into a new apartment and you decide you like sitting on a beanbag chair instead of the expensive sofa you bought, I shouldn't immediately assume you have a terminal illness.
Yeah, you definitely shouldn't.
Isn't it infinitely more likely that they just happen to enjoy the physical sensation of the filter? Like maybe the current flowing through it provides extra oxygen, going straight to they might be sick. Seems like a huge leap.
Okay, translating human preference to animal behavior is a really dangerous game.
Fair enough.
In a human context, your skepticism makes perfect sense. We express preference freely because we're apex predators, essentially. We aren't worried about being eaten in our living rooms.
Well, usually.
Right. But in a biological context, especially within a controlled artificial environment like an aquarium, Aang's suspicion is actually the hallmark of a deeply experienced observer.
Okay, explain that to me.
It comes down to a concept called the stoicism of survival.
Meaning they hide their pain.
To a degree, that is difficult for humans to even comprehend. In the wild, the food chain is absolutely ruthless. Predators do not target the strongest member of a school.
Right, they look for the outlier.
Exactly. A fish that swims with a slight lisp, a fish that shows lethargy, or visibly displays weakness, that fish is immediately targeted and consumed.
So showing a symptom is practically a death sentence.
Yes. which means evolution has heavily favored prey animals that can mask their physical distress until the absolute last possible moment.
Oh, wow. So they're faking being okay.
Constantly. A Kribensis Cichlid in a glass box doesn't know it's safe from predators. Its DNA is screaming at it to appear healthy at all costs.
That makes so much sense.
By the time an aquatic animal is showing obvious physical signs of illness like visible lesions, clamped fins, or an inability to maintain buoyancy, their internal systems are usually already failing.
So intervention at that stage is frequently too late.
Almost always.
Okay, that completely reframes the entire concept of observation for me. You can't just wait for a cough or a limp. You have to look for the absence of normal behavior.
The very first and sometimes only early warning sign of distress, severe stress, or impending illness is behavioral deviation.
Wow.
When Aang introduced the stressor of new pairings, the natural healthy response should have been a fierce instinctual drive to claim territory and dig a shelter.
Because that's what a healthy cichlid does.
Exactly. The fact that this fundamental drive was superseded by a desire to huddle under a piece of industrial equipment, well, that is the biological equivalent of a flashing red engine light.
Got it. So Aang isn't diagnosing them with a disease right away. Aang is just recognizing that a broken instinct is a recognized symptom on the hierarchy of possibilities.
Yes, it has to be treated as a potential crisis until proven otherwise.
Okay, so the challenge now is how to respond to that potential crisis.
Right, because the aquarist is faced with three distinct variables: an unknowable psychological preference, a physical obscurement from the sand, or a life-threatening health issue.
Action is required, obviously, but blind action in an aquarium can be catastrophic.
Oh, incredibly catastrophic.
And the log concludes with Aang deciding on a very specific, restrained intervention.
I love this part.
Right. Aang decides to manually clear the fine sand from the opening of the artificial cave first, and then simply wait to see how the fish react.
It is a perfect demonstration of isolating a single variable. You choose the least invasive option before escalating the response.
Let's explore the danger of escalating too quickly, actually. Because it mirrors the scientific method we use in daily life, right?
Yeah.
Fixing the most obvious potential roadblock first before tearing apart the whole system.
Exactly.
If Aang gave in to panic regarding the health issue hypothesis, the instinct might be to immediately intervene medically.
Which is how well-meaning aquarists frequently crash their own ecosystems.
Because they just dump meds in.
Yeah. If you assume illness and begin dosing the tank with broad-spectrum antibiotics or antiparasitic medications, you are fundamentally altering the water chemistry.
Well, you're killing the good stuff, too.
Right. You risk killing the beneficial bacteria that process the fish waste, which leads to massive ammonia spikes.
And ammonia is lethal to fish.
Very. Plus, you are usually capturing and netting the fish to move them to quarantine tanks, which induces massive physiological stress on an animal that might already be sick.
You essentially create a fatal health crisis while trying to cure a hypothetical one.
Exactly. And on the flip side, if you assume it's just an unknowable mystery of fish psychology, you do nothing.
Right, and you just leave a potentially stressed or sick fish exposed in a high-tension group dynamic.
Which can also lead to a slow decline.
So brushing away the sand is the surgical strike.
Yes, it is.
By manually clearing the entrance, Aang is testing the environmental trigger hypothesis without altering the water chemistry, without netting the fish, and without disrupting the newly formed group dynamics.
Aang is compiling the software.
Yes.
By revealing the dark crevice, Aang provides the visual IF condition. If the cichlids spot the opening, swim over, and immediately begin excavating the rest of the cave, boom, the mystery is solved.
The instinct wasn't broken by illness. It was simply paused by a lack of sensory input.
Exactly.
But what if they don't respond to the visual cue? Like, if the front door is wide open and they still huddle under the sponge filter?
Then a critical variable has been systematically eliminated.
Right, you've crossed one off the list.
The aquarist knows with absolute certainty that the barrier to entry is not physical discoverability. The hypotheses narrow.
And the likelihood of a deeper environmental incompatibility or a creeping health issue increases.
Which then warrants a more complex intervention.
The discipline required to do the smallest possible thing is just incredible to me.
It's very hard for most people.
It's so tempting to tear apart a system when it isn't working the way we designed it.
Yeah.
Whether you were managing an aquarium or debugging a massive piece of code or, I don't know, trying to figure out why a team project at work is suddenly failing.
Yeah, the human impulse is always to overhaul everything at once.
Always.
But overhauling a system destroys your ability to understand what was actually broken.
Because you change too much.
No. Right. When you change 5 variables simultaneously and the system suddenly starts working again, you have learned absolutely nothing.
You have no idea which of the 5 changes fixed the issue.
Meaning you are doomed to repeat the exact same failure in the future.
That is such a good point. This micro-interaction inside a glass box perfectly distills the mindset required to navigate any complex environment.
It really does.
When reality violently rejects your careful blueprint, when the expensive pet bed is ignored for the dusty floor, you have to set your ego aside.
You observe the anomaly, you acknowledge the limits of your own perception, and you systematically test the physical barriers before assuming a total systemic failure.
It demands a lot of patience.
The answers in observation are rarely handed over freely,
Yeah.
They must be coaxed out by testing the boundaries of the environment literally 1 grain of sand at a time.
Which brings us to a final thought for you to carry forward, building directly on the cliffhanger of Aang's log.
Oh, this is the best part.
So Aang is about to reach into the tank and sweep away that fine sand. The entrance to the terracotta cave will be perfectly undeniably exposed. The if-then visual trigger will be completely visible to the fish.
The stage is set.
But consider this. If Aang clears that sand, and the Kribensis Cichlids look at the perfect custom-built, highly defensible luxury cave, and they still choose to wedge themselves back under the vibrating chaos of the sponge filter.
What then?
What does that reveal about our deep-seated human assumptions regarding what another species actually values as a safe space? We build based on our own logic, but perhaps the natural world operates on a logic we haven't even begun to fathom.